still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. We have some events coming up over the next 12 months. NUFC Matters end of season party takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on Friday the 22nd of May. Tickets are £10 and the doors open at 7 o'clock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. From Dialogue to Monologue by Arthur Mackenzie, a live script reading takes place on Friday the 5th of June at 7:30 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Return of the Entertainers, a walking football match takes place at Gateshead Leisure Centre on Saturday the 6th of June, kick-off 12 o'clock. You can also have a chance to play in the game and take on the Entertainers. Go to our website for more details. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, and Rebel Base Northeast, a Star Wars convention take place on Saturday the 1st of August, 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 in the afternoon at the Copthorne Hotel on the Quayside. All of these events are in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia, and tickets available from nufcmatters.co.uk. The Craze for a Dinage, Ronnie, Reggie and Me takes place on Wednesday the 11th of November, 7:30 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. And an evening with Beardsley, Cole and Ferdinand takes place on the 29th of January 2027. Also at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. Box office for both of those events, 0191 243 1171. Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk is the website to book your tickets. If you're looking for something to read on your holidays, why not buy The Entertainers 1992 to 1997 Kevin Keegan's Legacy, or The Promoter and the Photographer, 25 years of bringing the stars to Tyneside. Both books available, nufcmatters.co.uk.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening. Welcome along to NUFC Matters for another episode of Ask George. How are you, George?
I'm fine, thank you, everybody. Yes, great, Steve. Thank you.
Good stuff. And Paul says, evening, Steve, George and chat. This is where George nails us with some home truths, which, yes, we're looking forward to it. I will start with this one from Gary, because it's just breaking news, really. Liam Kennedy has broken a story tonight saying that Sandro Tonali will be allowed to leave if we don't get Europe. Where do you get this info? Gypsy Rose Lee, says Gary. Apparently it's in his contract. That if Newcastle don't get Europe, he'll be allowed to leave this summer. What's your take on that, George?
If it's in his contract, there's not a lot we can do about it. But whether it is or not, it would be a disaster. He's the sort of player we want to keep. I mean, without doubt, in my mind, he's one of the very few world-class performers that we've got. I try and keep up with these performances for Italy, and he's just outstanding even at the international level. So it would be an absolute disaster. But if you say it's in his contract, well, there's not a lot the club or anybody else can do about it, because we had to write it in there. Having said that, his public pronouncements and his public interviews recently have not sounded like somebody who was even interested in leaving Newcastle United. He seems still to have an honourable side to him that says he owes us something for the way he was treated after he was found guilty of betting, because not a lot of clubs would have done what our club did. So it would be dreadful, but in his contract, we're stuck with it. But I still would hesitate to think that he would do it. He's the guy's settled into what he regards as a new home, and all his public pronouncements have been very positive towards playing in Newcastle.
Yeah, interesting one. I'll give my take on it. If this is the situation we find ourselves in, we're going to make a lot of money for him, and credit to Newcastle United for extending his contract, which means we'll get more money for him. So it will be interesting to see. But I think ultimately what Isak's situation showed us this summer was that anybody can go, and I think we've just got to understand that now. I
hope we'll learn that getting into long, protracted arguments with somebody who wants to go doesn't do anybody any good.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Okay, Gary says, George, do you have a favourite trusted journalist for information, and do you have a journalist who you really don't like?
Oh, gosh, that's a good one. I quite like Craig Hope, to be perfectly honest. And the guy from the Times who writes, the names escape me. But there's a guy who writes for the Times does national things. Very, very balanced with regard to Newcastle United, which is not always the case. Sometimes the Nationals are looking for an angle, and the angle is usually geopolitical. It's not even bloody football. But there are good journalists around. The one I do like particularly, he writes for the Times. His name escapes me. George Colgan. Yeah.
Okay. George, looking back at the season up to now, what has been your biggest frustration, including the summer transfer window?
Oh, well, I don't think we've any of us realised what an impact that horrible summer had on the whole club, not just on Isak and not just on Eddie Howe, etc. I think the whole club felt it, and we've been sort of half blinded by it. The frustration after that is got to be how we went about trying to put it right. We seem to be thrust into panic buys, which have done neither us nor the people that came in any good. That's a huge frustration as well. But the other big frustration has been our inability, more than once, to hold on to a win, to be able to hold on to a draw sometimes. But we've given things up when in the seasons previously we wouldn't have done, and that's bemusing. I mean, season before and season before that, we didn't ship the goals we've shipped this year, and there's a number of reasons for that. But it's very frustrating indeed that we've lost from winning positions, and that's just awful. And the other frustration, I suppose, for me is that we've had games, particularly in Europe, where we've performed like heroes and then come back and performed like idiots at St James's Park, particularly. like the draws against Spurs and Chelsea, and some of the defeats, were just difficult to answer when we'd done what we'd done. So frustration is, I suppose, inconsistency is the word I'm looking for.
Okay, Gary's got another question in. Seems to be a lot of strong links with us being interested in Delap in the summer. Would he suit our system, George, and do you rate him?
Well, I rate Delap. I have to say I wasn't impressed that he chose to go to Chelsea when he must have known he was going to be shining the seat on the substitutes bench most of the year. At his age, I would have thought he wanted to be on the field, and that does worry me a little bit. I do rate him, and as to where he suit our system, I have to say yes, because at the moment we're doing all the right things up until we get into the penalty area, and he's a classic number 9, if you like, and would be picking up those fantastic crosses from both sides, both right and left, from Gordon to Langer, Barnes, and Jacob Murphy when he's on. So yes, I think he probably would fit into our system.
Okay. Paul says, can you ask George if his family are related to the Mitchell Shipyard Company that amalgamated with the Armstrong Company, becoming the Armstrong-Mitchell Shipyard Company back in 1882?
No, in 1882, my family were all working in Scotland. My grandfather, my great-grandfather and my grandfather came across from Northern Ireland to find work, and the only work they could find was in the pit. So they became miners. They were actually in Ireland, coming up from the south to the north. If I go back far enough, there were Tingers. They lived in a bloody caravan. So that's a bit of the Mitchell history for you.
All right. Little FB says, question, who was the 10-minute flag meant to benefit and what was its origins?
Oh, its origins are fairly straightforward. There was a wish by a group of fans, a group of people in the stand, asking that they'd like to know when its 10 minutes was up, and so that's what started it, and it was there for everybody to see, because it was always a pretty huge flag. It wasn't a little flag, and right in the Gallagher corner. And it used to amaze me how many people used to religiously, when that flag went down, off they went for the bus or to go home or whatever, and sometimes missed important goals. I mean, the biggest one I remember, we were playing Portsmouth in the Cup, and when the 10-minute flag went down, we were 2-1 down. By the time the game was finished, Bobby Mitchell turned 2-1 down to 4-2 win. And all them that went home with the 10-minute flag missed all the excitement. So yeah, it was just incredible. But people used to, you could physically feel how the crowd eased once that flag went down, because people were slipping out at the back of the Gallagher. But it was. I understand it was a request from a group of people in the stand of all places, who wanted to know a bit more about the time, where we were in the match, and the suggestion was, well, we can give you a 10-minute flag, and that's what they got.
Tony, good evening, watching on Facebook. He says, now that the Derby result has settled somewhat, do you still think it's time we move for another manager?
Derby might have settled for you. It just get worse for me. The more I think about it, the more irate I get. There's so much about it. I could do an hour analysing the Derby game on my own. And frankly, what it did do to me is finally push me to one way or the other. And the way I am at the moment is that it's time for Eddie to go. Sadly, he's done a fantastic job forwards, but it's I think we've reached the limit. If you can't G up 11 black and whites to batter 11 red and whites twice in a season, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I mean, and even on the pitch, if you think about the game, the last 2 minutes, Dan Burn made this great big sliding tackle to take a ball out at their end. And I was sitting with Steve Hasty saying, why wasn't he doing that in the first minute, not the last minute? You know, where was that? And only one player booked in the derby. That was us. One player booked. Where were all the others? What happened? The only player who really, in my opinion, earned his money that day was Anthony Gordon. From stop to finish, he never stopped running. And he was still towards just before he was substituted, having a shot on goal. Yes, they were over the bar, but at least he was the only one having a shot. And Eddie substituted him. No, the thinking of the team, the thinking of the manager, it all comes together for me. And sadly, in what Eddie thought he was doing, taking them on a lap of honour at the end, I do not know. What honour? What lap of honour? I mean, surely he knew the diehards that were left were going to boo him roundly, and that's what they did, and left the Sunderland fans to control the stadium. It was just a lack of thinking, lack of thought, and Piff don't escape there either for me. Where was our chairman? Yes, he comes to big matches like the Manchesters, like the Arsenals and PSG, and the big European matches. But there's two matches to Geordie's that are bigger than any matches. That's the two derby games. And he should have been there. The Sunderland owner and the board, the whole board, were at that match, sitting in that ground, knowing that most of the pundits were reckoning Sunderland were going to get a tanning. And idiots like me saying it was going to be 4-0. And they sat through it. Well, they got what they deserved, a win, because the team just at the finish was outplaying them. It was such, I can't remember for a long time how devastated I felt after a loss. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I'm a happy clappy and I want to win everything and a greedy little duck and all that stuff. That's me. But on the other hand, we lost to Manchester City in the two cups. We lost to Barca in the European Cup. Their losses you can stand because that's at the top. This was a loss against a team who, to begin the season, had 15 new players in their squad, a manager who was new to the Premiership, never had any experience in the Premiership, very young manager. And on Sunday, he turned Eddie Howe over. He made changes at half time, and suddenly from hanging on, they took the match off with. And in a football sense, they're the bits I can't get past. And if that's where we are thinking football, then we've got a problem. And the only problem to do is to change the man who's directing things, and that's the manager. I love Eddie Howe. Don't get me wrong; he's done lots of great things, but at the moment, I think we've got what we can out of him.
Okay, strong views as we expected tonight on the show. Plenty of questions coming in. This one from Clinton Bapp, he says, do you think we need to bring in another coach, George, to freshen things up?
Well, I think you've just heard my previous answer. The answer is yes.
Well, that's about Eddie Howe, but this is a coach. I mean, I guess you want your Howe out at the moment, but would you bring another coach in? I guess that means you'd have to bring an entirely new team in, wouldn't you, if you're replacing the manager?
Yeah, I mean, to get a single coach who's not employed at the moment, who would do something for us, would be a difficult job to do. If they can find somebody of that ilk, or if there's somebody that, if they're keeping Eddie and there's somebody Eddie knows he could work with and use, well, perhaps. But frankly, some of the incomings we've had so far this year have made me wonder, what happened to our dead ball coach? Have you seen any difference? God, it's been terrible. Absolutely awful, the dead balls. So if that's an example of what's coming in, it's a nice idea if there was a coach, a really top-notch coach around who isn't employed at the moment. You'd have to ask why they're not employed. Then it may be something, but if you're keeping Eddie, then it's got to be somebody that Eddie'd work with, and that then Eddie would want to bring somebody he knows. Difficult question to answer. It's a good idea. It's a good thought to freshen things up, but I think, really seriously, I think we need a bit more than that.
Okay, anybody who declares, that it's time to change the manager is always going to be asked this question. Who would you bring in to work under the financial restrictions we find ourselves in, then, George?
Well, you lead me into another thing that I've got with my son, and he and I've thought for a while now, and that it's time that PIF took their gloves off, showed their teeth. It really is ridiculous that we're working under those circumstances, and we're just accepting it. It's time we stopped accepting it and really challenged the Premier League. And if you're looking for somebody to come in, well, it's got to be somebody who's got big experience, national experience, and they're not going to be easy. They're not going to be easy to find. It may be one of the former international managers, somebody like that. But I've got to be honest, and I'm going to get pelters for this. I wouldn't die if Jose Mourinho walked in the door.
Okay, interesting stuff. Tom, good evening. George, would you be happy if Tonali left in the summer and got a good replacement in?
No, I wouldn't be happy if he left, because there's more to Tonali than just what he's doing on the pitch. He has good ability to pass those things to younger players, so would lose that as well. If he goes and we do get a replacement, then you'd have to be happy. There are replacements around. There's no question about that. But I would dearly love him to stay, and I'm still of the view that he will. But it's a good one. He's got to be in if any Premiership manager worth their salt who's looking to shore up their midfield or do something bright with their midfield next year has got to have Sandro Tonali on the list. Then it's up to us to make it so difficult for Sandro to leave that he just does what he's been saying publicly, that he'll stay. But he would be a huge miss. And yes, it would need a replacement like straight away. No faffing about like last year, getting replacements on the 11th hour. We'd need the replacement in toot sweet, quick as we can. But it would be nothing short of a disaster.
Okay, Gary, lightening the mood slightly. He says, you're out for a meal, George. What do you pick? Italian, Indians, or something else? And if you're having a takeaway, what's your favourite?
Oh, takeaway is Chinese. If I'm out, I'm very cosmopolitan with my food. I love Italian, love Chinese, love certain Indian dishes. And if I'm pushed and being very traditional, then I'll go down the surf and turf route. That's a nice steak or a nice fish dish with shellfish at the front. So I'm very, very easy going when it comes to eating. It's very little you could put in front of us. I wouldn't try.
Okay, John Askew, thank you. He sent us 7 questions by email. So here's one. George, you've been keen not to rush to judge on the Elanga situation, but he's now been with us for over 7 months and had Premier League experience before he came here. Are you edging towards a final view on whether he will really make it at Newcastle?
Sadly, yes. After Sunday and the last couple of games, I hope that the Barcelona game might give them the confidence to do better. But what I watched on Sunday against Sunderland was very frustrating. We have the biggest pitch in the Premier League. Not many people know that. Marked out on that green, St James's Park is the biggest pitch in the Premier League. It's the same size as the one at Wembley, thanks to Stan Seymour. And if you've got a winger like Elanga, You want him to hug the touchline so that he's able to be found, so that Trippier and others behind him can find him easily and lay the ball through inside the fullback for him to run onto. And most of that game, he was in what I call no man's land. He was neither on the touchline and neither in the penalty area. He was between the two, and therefore made him almost useless. And so, yeah, yeah, I'm worried about where he goes from that, because that's about football knowledge. That's not just about coaching. It's about his own knowledge. He's one of the ones, as well as him, Barnes, and there's another one, Langa, Barnes. Oh, Wissa. You're all the same. You've all played football. Eye on the ball. You know, from when you were kids, eye on the ball. The number of times you see Elanga, Wissa, and Barnes when Ramsdale's getting a kick out, or we've got a long free kick, the number of times you're looking and not even looking at the ball, that they seem to be somewhere else. And that, again, that's just your football brain. And you feel like shaking them and saying, hey, eye on the ball, man, eye on the ball. And they're basic things. So if you transmit that to what's not going right elsewhere, then it's about your thought. But I saw this. He was brilliant at Nottingham Forest. I mean, Chris Wood got 20-odd goals, and most of them were assists from Anthony Elanga. So why on earth? I mean, yes, he's had difficult transfer. He's had a new baby. All of that counts. But that surely doesn't drain your football ability away as much as it has with him. So I'm off the fence with Anthony. I'm worried. Put it that way.
David Frame, thank you for your email. He says, our owners know revenues and margin more than most of the rest of the world. So why do you think the club's so commercially off it with opportunities like training ground sponsors, kit rights, digital content, brand licensing, yada, yada? Should be a busman's holiday for PIF, but it isn't.
Well, you would have thought so. And not to pinch Stu Penman's mantra, there's so many things around that people could point in a direction if they just asked. And I know from Neil, businesses in the Middle East, and it's a difficult time at the moment, I accept, but there are businesses in the Middle East who for quite a nice sum would be happy to be associated with Newcastle United, and we don't even seem to be trying. I mean, look at the Noon badge on our shirts. That Noon badge or a sleeve is worth as much as some clubs get for the badge on their chest. The shirt badge. So yeah, we there are a number of things which do irritate me a little bit about PIF, and the commercial things are one of them. But also, I trumpeted the takeover as much as anybody. For God's sake, Steve knows, I made a video for them saying how much the Geordie Nation welcomed them and all that sort of thing. But now, there's little things that happen, like the chairman not being there on Sunday, and things that's happening inside the club that are hurtful and damaging to fans. There are certain bits of the club, if you shut your eyes and close your ears, you'd think that Ashley was still in there. There's no evidence. So I would like them to see real evidence of there being a PIF presence inside St James's Park, not just the CEO, but the owners as well. So, they've been very slow. I'm a little more sanguine about the new ground and about the training ground. If they announced the plans for the new ground tomorrow, they would have to sit in a draw till 2028 anyway. Don't kid yourself. However, the training ground as well. Now, I understand the training ground negotiations are being held up by one individual who's hanging on to his land to get the most out of it. Can't blame him, but it's making a mess of the training ground. So again, I'm a bit more sanguine about that. But on the other hand, that shouldn't stop them looking for possible sponsors, even though it's not built yet. You know, the name would be getting thrown around all the time. That it is, and same as the ground, the naming rights. I mean, I like everybody else was up in arms when Ashley tried to take the St James's Park away from it. If he had just used his common sense and said Sports Direct at St James's Park, or why don't the owners say Saudi Air at St James's Park, or Aramco at St James's Park, I could live with that if they're going to put some money into the coffers. But the owners really have been slow on this area. But it goes back to my original comment about that Neil shares with me. I know about the passivity of the owners. We've, under the terms that we run under in the Premier League, we've got our hands tied behind our back and our pants pulled down to our knees. And every time somebody says the Newcastle rules, which should be illegal, we're getting our bottom smacked and we're just taking it. Time somebody stood up and said something about it or did something about it. But you're right.
Okay,
sorry.
Yeah, no worries, mate. We're going to have an ad break. Tonali starts for Italy tonight. That's vexed a few people in the chat, seeing as we didn't play against Sunderland. But we will see how
the manager explained that. I see people complaining today about that, but the manager explained that. You know, yeah, okay.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to United Group Travel, our fanzine sponsor. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Or telephone 01670 632 460. Or mobile 0791 666 4174. Deposits from £50 per person. A big thanks to Media Arts. Their website, www.media-arts.co.uk. Email info@media-arts.co.uk. Or telephone 0191 637 5061. If you want to help support the channel, then you can click the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. It is free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. A big thanks to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can listen to us on the road, on this network, or by tuning into iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can also join the channel by hitting the join button on YouTube, or go to our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. You can pay a one-off fee of £25 and you'll receive a membership card, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a key ring, a badge, and a pen. £25, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. Okay, welcome back to Ask George. Got a few questions coming in from different people, which is great, but we still have some to get through from John Askew. John says, are you confident we'll have an excellent transfer window that we all need and deserve? And if we don't, what will that tell us about the new CEO and sporting director?
Confident. I'm confident there'll be quite a lot of activity, because there's got to be. There's not a lot of activity, then a lot of people have going to have tears in their eyes. The new sporting director and Eddie Howe and everybody else with the recruitment team. So I'm confident there'll be lots of activity. it's the level that bothers me. That who we can go for and who'll come and what wages we can pay. So I'm confident we'll have a busy window, but there's lots of other things, peripheral things that have to happen as well. I mean, if for example they did decide to change managers, well, there's a big one to start with in terms of who's coming in, and we need to see something from Ross Wilson. Now, I see today that there's stuff on the media about him bringing South American players in, like he did at Nottingham Forest and did very successfully. So yes, I'm confident there'll be a busy window. What I'm less confident about is who they'll be and the quality.
Okay. Next question from John was, if you don't want to be accountable and or have something to hide, surely the best way forward is to limit communication to the minimum. Is that what you think is happening at our club?
No, I hope not. But it is worrying that getting information sometimes is like pulling teeth. I hate to go back to the Amanda Staveley example, but the point is that she seemed to be able to get across to the fans what was happening without giving commercial sensitivities away, and the fans appreciated that. At the moment, if you ask any fans the name of the people who are on the board of directors now, they'd be struggling. Apart from the Rubens and people would start to spit. Well, I'm not sure that's right. The CEO's come in and done his 100-day examination of the club, etc. Still waiting for some of the results of that. And he speaks very well, but all he's done at the moment is give the press sound bites, and some of his sound bites are frankly difficult to justify. If he thinks we're going to be winning things by 2030, the Premiership, European Cup, my God, what does he know that we don't know? And that can only happen, in my view, if the shackles are taken off for spending. So yes, it's there's so much could happen, but it's all dependent, and I've got to say, I go back to another answer. I'd like to see some changes that make me believe that Mike Ashley's gone from Newcastle United, because at the moment there are bits of it where the fans are involved, which worry me. Mike Ashley's still there in some places.
George, what's your favourite food when you go to Dubai?
Oh, Neil takes me to a very nice, bar cum restaurant in Jebel Ali, and it's. I'm sorry to be, very plain, and they do wonderful steaks with various sauces, peppered sauce and other sauces that go with steak, and that's always nice when I go there. The other one I go to is that they have a fantastic fish restaurant as well in one of the malls, and when we go there, I know I'm going to get really good fish, quality fish, shellfish and white fish. But the shellfish particularly is always very nice. So that's what I like.
Okay, next question. From a historical perspective, George, what has been your favourite away stadium?
Oh, favourite away stadium. Actually, I don't know what I'm hesitating about. The old Austin Stadium, Highbury, was always one of my favourites because of the way it was built. It was and a ground where you could guarantee as an away fan you could see. There are some grounds you go to, Everton's old ground, Goodison Park. God, what a pain for away supporters. They always pick a corner where there's lots of beams and pillars in your way, and you can see and you can't see, and it was awful. But the one that I always liked, was the Highbury, the old Arsenal Stadium, which has just been turned into flats together.
Yeah,
So,
it was one of my favourites. That, to be honest.
Gary
says.
Sorry, go on, Steve.
Gary says, George, the players we bought last summer, is there any you think need more time, or any you'd sell if a good offer came in? So you've spoken about Alanga. So you've got Walter Marder, you've got Ramsey, you've got Malik Chow, you've got Ramsdale. Got plenty to think about.
Well, we need a goalkeeper, so goodbye Ramsdale, I'm afraid. Malik Chow was brilliant until this last bit of the season. And whether it's fatigue or whatever, I don't know, but he's suddenly come off his horse a little bit. Somebody pointed out to me the other day, though, which I've not bothered to look into, was that it's noticeable that when Trippier's at right back, he's not as comfortable because he doesn't feel he's got the cover. Now that could be a good point, but Malik Chow, at his age, is a tremendous centre back, and he just needs to be encouraged and carry on where he is. I've liked what I've seen of Jacob Ramsey. I wasn't sure when he came, but a couple of the games he's had, particularly European ones, were great. And the one where we played Manchester City in the Cup had Pep Guardiola singing his praises, saying that he'd never seen a midfielder run as far and as hard as and keep them out like where Jacob Ramsey did. So he's all right. Voltemada's the enigma. Voltemada is the way things are at the moment. Eddie's trying to turn him into a midfield player, and I'm not sure that that's right. We either need to find a way of playing him, how he plays for Germany, and I wish somebody would watch his German performances and his videos. We would have a very dangerous player. There's a very skillful player in there, and I just wish we could find a way of getting him involved. Mr. Wisser, he's another one as an enigma. And it's hard when he's had such a bad injury and never had a bad injury before. Now I was astounded when the CEO said they were still assessing his injury when he was still playing. I thought, well, if they're still assessing, what the hell's he doing on the pitch? But I can't help but notice he's another one like Alanga. He's great at finding no man's land. On Sunday when he came on, I can't remember seeing him touch the ball, particularly in their box. And for somebody who's playing, up front, he scored a goal for the Congo last night, by the way, although it was a penalty. It's just so frustrating. And again, as I said earlier, he's another one of these that gets me steaming when I'm sitting watching when we're taking a goal kick or a free kick or something in a long ball, and he's not even looking at the ball. And I think, what are you doing on there? You know what you're doing? It's just crazy. So we need to see the real Wisser, is what I'm trying to say. And if that means we need a close season with him and do all the work with him to get the real Wisser out of him, well, fine. Because we've got to do it quick. He's not getting any younger. He's getting older, So, there's good and there's bad and indifferent. But whoever's looking after them, but Eddie or anybody else, there's some problems to solve. There's some egos to polish and get put right. Just get on with it as far as I'm concerned.
Stephen, good evening. He says, George, would you be happy if the club decided this summer to stick two fingers up at the Premier League and take in a host of really big sponsorships? And if we are told too much money NUFC PIF give. I'm not sure what that back end meant, but yeah, you get the picture. I mean, you mentioned this earlier on, didn't you? You and Neil have both banged the drum for PIF to show their teeth.
Yeah, they sit back in a passive role. Now, my theory is, and I don't think Neil agrees with it, but my theory is when the takeover went through, we were asked to sign some sort of declaration that we wouldn't do this and we wouldn't do that and we wouldn't do the other. But that's ridiculous, because even I, as a simple magistrate, know you cannot sign against something which is illegal. And a number of times already that the Premier League's rules have been pronounced by senior KCs, King's Counsel, that the rules are illegal, then surely that's the time that they need to be challenged and challenged properly. As I said earlier, at the moment, we've got two hands tied behind my back, my trousers stuck around my knees. And every now and again, somebody comes in and says they'll do this and use the Newcastle rules. Well, that's anti-competitive. Those rules alone would surely find the Premier League in serious trouble, and not just in serious trouble. My view, and it is my view, is that if it went to a court, it wouldn't end up just as a commercial penalty. If the emails between the Premier League and the Big Six look like they've been plotting and are anti-competitive, it could end up with Masters being charged with something which is criminal, not just commercial. So I don't think would have anything to lose to have a go, because the longer it goes on, the more clubs like Everton, Leicester, Nottingham Forest must be spitting blood after what happened to Chelsea the other day. You know, they reported themselves. So what? You know.
Talk of Everton and Forest taking legal action, which of course, will be interesting. And also, not my favourite journalist, it has to be said, but Mr. Delaney was reporting last night that the Man City case is on the horizon. The result of the Man City case is on the horizon. He was alluding to a potential 40 to 60 point deduction for Man City, which would be interesting. If that happened, that would certainly make everybody sit up and pay attention. But it will be interesting to see, whether that comes to fruition. He was suggesting that it could come as early as Easter. So I guess it's very much a case of
very close to them. Yeah.
Watch this space.
Well, that's the other side I was going to say about PIF. Is that what they're been waiting for, to see what happens to those 115 charges against Manchester City? And I can understand why they would. But if that doesn't come out right, why sit back? Have a go, show your teeth. They've got the money, they've got the lawyers. For God's sake, I mean, the golf thing was a mess, was a shambles. The PGA and the Live Golf, they'd been fighting for 2 years and spending billions on lawyers, and they let loose Samantha Staveley and her husband, and in a fortnight it was solved. So why not ask them to go in and have a go at the bloody Premier League, see if they can solve that as well? Because it's an outrage. Even Simon Jordan, of all people, if you listen to him on Talk Sport, when he talks about us, he always says Newcastle United will get nowhere because the rules are written to stop them. And that's Simon Jordan saying publicly. Well, if that's true, we should challenge. It's time we challenged.
Yeah. Blue Rhythm Boys asked 2 questions so far in the chat, and you've already answered them. But he's finally got one in. Does George think Spurs will be relegated?
Well, the way they're playing at the moment, yes, because they don't seem to have any spirit at all at the moment. They seem to get all right, and then soon as they give a goal away, their heads are down, and they don't seem to know how to cope with it. And the guy they've put in as an interim manager, my goodness, I'm amazed they've stuck with him. They're in serious danger. There's no doubt about that.
Yep. Paul Post says, George, Anthony Gordon, do you think his focus on wanting to score goals has jeopardised providing for our strikers? Only 4 assists this season, hogging penalties. No one has filled that void of providing.
Anthony Gordon, for me, does what I want all black and whites to do. He runs his bloody socks off wherever he's playing, on the right, on the left, up the middle. I'm sure if Eddie asked him to play in goal, he'd play in goal. So my worries about Anthony Gordon is that what are we doing to him rather than the other way around? You know, we're running the legs off him and for little return. And as I said on Sunday, if anybody was going to get an equaliser, it was going to be him. He was going to have a go. So I'm done here. I'm happy to be an Anthony Gordon liker because he's somebody who wears his heart on his sleeve. He sometimes tries too hard, like they sending off with Van Dijk that time against Liverpool. He just was going at it a bit too hard. The goal on Sunday, his persistence, he just worried them into giving that ball away. So I'm pro Anthony Gordon, but what I'd like is somebody in the middle to receive what's coming in, because he does get the ball across the goal quite often.
Blue Rhythm Boys on a roll. What did George think of Bellamy the player and now Bellamy the manager? He spoke well today, in my opinion, leading Wales. He was asked one question, wasn't he, today? And he said about Mo Salah, and he goes, "Is Mo Salah playing for Wales?" Like, it was brilliant. But what do you think of Bellamy?
Well, obviously, when he was here as a player and he was scoring goals, he could do no wrong. But then he got into these silly rows with Sir Bobby Robson, etc., and that
John
kind
Carver.
of and John Carver. Yes, and the rumours of him fighting in the bloody airport lounge and that kind of thing, and other things. So, and I gather him and Uncle Shearer used to have the odd set too as well. Just a player with too much energy, he couldn't leave it on the field. That's the trouble for me. He couldn't leave it on the field. When he brought it off, he still was fighting a good fight. And I think he's learned being in around people like Shearer and others as a young player. He's learned, and that's the Bellamy you're seeing now. Somebody that's thought about things and thought about a different way to go, a different way to promote himself, different way to promote his football. So I think he's best thing I can say about Craig Bellamy. He looks like somebody who's learned and taken those lessons to heart, and it's made him a better manager.
Okay, Blue Rhythm Boy met him by chance in the club shop as a Ben, and he was golden. So there we go.
Yes. Oh, yeah. His dad. That all I hear about him personally is what a great guy he was. Yeah.
George, with strong rumours that Tino is off to City, would you take a big wedge of money, or would you want Trafford plus cash if he's got to leave?
I better be careful. I'll be honest with you. I think Tino is on his way to Manchester City, and it will be for a big wedge of cash. But I wouldn't want Trafford. Thank you. No, Mr. Trafford's had his shots with Newcastle United, and the money's probably on at Manchester City. I doubt if we could match it. I think Tino will go, sadly, which is a disaster when he's one of our youngest players. We should have enough cash to fill the slot, fill the hole, and take it from there. But be very sad if he did. But I'm inclined to believe that he's on his way.
Tim says, George, I asked Steve yesterday, what's your thoughts on wholesale cheating in the game? He felt it started in the 70s, 80s and 90s. Do you think it's as bad now as it was in the past, or do you think it's worse?
Worse. It drives me crazy. And the officials let it happen. Some of it's, people say little things, but it's the little things they get away with that encourage the big things. You lads out there and lasses out there know my obsession with throw-ins for a start, but also free kicks. How many times do you see a free kick taken from where it was actually taken? The minute the referee, particularly if it's a free kick the goalkeeper's taken, the minute the referee turns his back, the ball's thrown 10 yards further than it was. And the linesman does nothing. The assistant referee does nothing, just lets it happen. And the first time a referee, puts his foot down and something happens, they'll put that right. And other things which have crept in. The Pickford line on the ball, when he collects it and he drops on it, every goalkeeper's doing that now. That should be like simulation, wasting time. Why does he need to drop on the ball if he's not diving to collect it? They collect it and then they drop down. That, to me, that's as bad as simulation. And then there's all the absolute rubbish in the penalty area at corners and free kicks, where people are having their shirts pulled off their back and there's punching and elbowing and you name it, it happens. Very few of those instances, even with VAR, come to be penalties, and they should. And the solution's easy for me. First referee that has the guts to give about 6 penalties in one game for things that happened in the penalty area, they'd take notice, because the bloody managers would take notice and say, hey, but some of it is absolutely dreadful. And that's all cheating. It's encouraged as well by some of the pundits. Our own Alan Shearer can infuriate me. Again, in the penalty area, when a corner's being taken or a free kick, you hear the pundits saying, oh, he's blocked the defender off. What he means is he's obstructed the defender. And if that had happened anywhere else on the pitch, it would be a free kick. But because it's in the penalty area, nothing. It's frustrating. Yes, cheating now is sadly part of the game that the dark arts that people are learning all the time, even the younger ones now. And until somebody does something special about it, as you know, my solution for throw-ins would be there wouldn't be any throw-ins. There would be indirect free kicks. And then it's got to be put on a spot and not moved. Whereas now, they get a throw-in, the lines and points where he's got to take it from. The player goes back a yard and takes a long throw by running 10 yards up the line past where the mark is and throws it in. And it's not giving us a foul throw. It's just allowed to go on. No, it's cheating is worse than ever. Worse than ever. Yeah, I mean, the people I played with were angels compared to the people now.
That hour has flown over. I have to go. I'm doing a little stint on Radio Newcastle at 7:15 on Total Sport, just to promote our big charity match in the summer as they warm up to the World Cup. We've got a walking football match taking place, of course, between Newcastle United's legend team and a media team. Walking football at Gates Leisure Centre. The tickets are on sale on a voucher for 19 quid. Get yourself on there if you fancy coming along. Some VIP tickets, only limited VIP tickets left. There will be a chance to meet the players after the game, get your photographs taken with Peter Beardsley and Lee Clark, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Rule Fox, etc. But I'll be on Radio Newcastle. I'm sure they will take that opportunity to ask me a little bit about Newcastle United. So 7:15 on Total Sport, or just before or just after. Tune in, give it a listen. I'll be on there, and I will be back tomorrow with George, Steve Hasty and Neil at 5 o'clock for the Three Amigos. Look forward to seeing you all then. Take care, George. Thanks again.
Thank you, boys and girls. Good to see you all out there. Enjoy your football.